Welcome to the China Leadership Dilemma podcast. My name is Gene Chu, your host, and today we will explore the impactful nuances of culture across the deepest levels of awareness with our guest, Jay Whitley. Now, Jay is the founder of 24 Hour Designs, an agency focused on helping early-stage entrepreneurs to make their app ideas a reality through design. He is, I'm going to call him bilingual, but I haven't tested it. He's been learning Mandarin Chinese, he's lived in China, he's worked in China, and he continues to take Mandarin Chinese lessons. In fact, he had one last night. So Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so the thing that we always want to start with is just tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Where are you from and what do you do?
So I'm originally from Michigan.
Okay.
I moved to Los Angeles, California back in 2009.
Okay.
Since then, it's really been my dream to discover the city, kind of uncover the amazing things that it has to offer, but also grow as an individual, grow as an entrepreneur, explore the world, learn languages, as you mentioned. And so here we are today, right?
Now, what brought you out to, why did you choose California? I think I read in your profile that you came to California when you were 17. So
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, was it on your mind at 17?
Not at all. Not at all. I think the original goal was, in my mind at least, I could articulate that I wanted to be an actor.
You want to be an actor, okay?
I wanted to be an actor, so I moved to Hollywood and I moved in with some roommates. They all were going to acting school at the time, and I quickly realized that I didn't want to be an actor.
Okay. What was the trigger?
I needed to make money. I needed to pay for my bills, and as a young individual, whether you're going to school or you're trying to do the hustle, the real life responsibilities will hit you fast.
So you went to acting school. You were enrolled?
No. Well, actually, I was in college. I was at Santa Monica College, and I did take acting classes.
Okay.
I took your basic general education classes like psychology, math, science, but I was taking acting classes, and that was my excuse while my roommates were actually going to a private, dedicated acting school.
Okay, you just took some acting classes.
I was just taking some acting classes.
Now, did you have an agent?
Did not have an agent.
Did you ever get paid to do any acting?
I did. My claim to fame, and I actually have the DVD stored somewhere with a bunch of dust on it,
Okay.
is a Discovery Channel bit that I did where I played a USC football player. I think his name is Ronnie Lott. He's actually quite famous.
Ronnie Lott, I know him.
Yeah, so I played
San
Ronnie
Francisco
Lott.
49ers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I played him in a Discovery Channel short film about his life, and I got paid a little quid. It wasn't bad, but for a 17-year-old, I was doing whatever.
So you played him as a 17-year-old?
I played him as a USC college football player. Yes.
Oh.
So it wasn't actually about his football career as much as it was more so about kind of some of the health problems that he had during that period of time.
Okay.
And so,
you mean when he was younger?
When he was younger, he had some health issues, and so I was just the actor in the portrayal. So you saw my face a little bit. You didn't see too much of it. You saw more of the back of my head with the actual skin issue that he was having at the time.
Okay.
So I think that's about it. It was fun.
Okay.
It was cool. I got to tell everybody back in Michigan, hey, I was doing a thing.
Now, how were you discovered for that role? Did you apply for it?
Yeah, they post things everywhere. They post things on Craigslist, all the other, look for gig acting sites. And for me, I was just, doing the hustle, looking for things to do, finding ways to occupy my time, maybe make a little bit of money in the meantime.
Okay. And so how long was it after you arrived in California that you discovered acting wasn't the way forward? I mean, was it within months or years?
It was definitely within months.
Within months?
It was within months, and it's not saying that I didn't like to do it, but, real life has a way of hitting you in the back of the head.
Right.
Right? And my responsibilities at the time were to go to school, was to pay my bills, and, just handle the things that are around me. I'm growing every single day. I'm learning every single day. But I didn't have the help and support that someone might have at age 17. So
now, had you been accepted to Santa Monica before you came?
Yeah, well, I applied the summer of 2009.
Okay.
And then I moved almost right after. So I graduated high school in 2009.
And you came Because you were accepted to college.
Because I went to college, I came down here. But again, like it wasn't like a college-driven decision.
Okay.
It was, let's go to California, let's try all the things.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you caught earlier, I said what I could articulate is that I wanted to be an actor, but really it was probably more so I needed to get the hell out of Michigan.
Okay, what part of Michigan were you from?
Grand Rapids. And if you're from Michigan, we like to point on our mitten here, because Michigan is in the shape of a mitten. You'll find Detroit to be on the far east side of the state, whereas on the west side of the state, closer to Chicago, is Grand Rapids.
So how was, what most people know about is how Detroit has steadily declined because of automotive manufacturing getting moved overseas. How about Grand Rapids? Is it experienced a similar kind of recession?
No, I mean, Grand Rapids always kind of had a small town feel.
Okay.
Back in 2009, I think it was on par or a little bit over 100,000 residents.
What's the main industry in Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids has a lot of hospitals.
Okay.
A lot of hospitals, a lot of medical. It's a big medical industry. So it's a really nice city. It's not that bad. There's a lot of hospitals. The Van Andels, they're a big wealthy family. They own the Orlando Magic.
Okay.
They're a family that has business throughout the world. There's Myers. There's a lot of big corporations, and Grand Rapids was a small place, but it's definitely was more on the up and coming rather than on the descent like a Detroit.
Yeah, because you spoke about needing to get the hell out of town.
Yeah.
What was the main impetus for? Were you just attracted to the glamour of being on the West Coast, or?
I think it was that. I think I was born to be by the ocean. I live by the ocean now, and I don't think I could ever live anywhere else. I don't surf.
Okay.
The funny thing is, for as much as I love the ocean, I'd rather not get into it.
Okay. Do you play volleyball? Beach volleyball?
I love beach volleyball, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
Anywhere by the beach is where I want to be.
Okay.
And if you don't know, Grand Rapids is cold. It's very cold.
Yeah, well, I know Michigan's cold.
Michigan's cold. All of Michigan's cold.
Yeah.
It snows.
You get the lake effect snow.
Get the lake effect snow 6 to 7 months out of the year. You have the wind chill, which blows that in your face. Feels like little shards of razors and glass blowing in your face in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
There is that, and also I just needed to discover myself. I come from a family that has, I lose track every day, but I want to say 11 siblings, and that includes the ones that are adopted, which I consider to be blood. Obviously they're not, but they're just as much of a brother or sister as anyone else in my family.
Right.
And
so you have 10 brothers and sisters.
I want to say 11. There's a few that are recent, and it's not like I can say they're not my siblings, because they are.
It's just you don't know them that well.
I don't know them that well. They're very young, and I've been out here for almost a decade now, discovering my life, and so as they're growing up, I can only communicate with them on FaceTime and Skype or when I visit for the holidays. Other than that, I haven't been around.
Right.
So when you're in you're born in a brood,
right,
a family. You're always scraping and fighting for that piece of meat.
Right.
You're always trying to get your vanity time in front of the mirror, brush your teeth, or take a shower. The majority of those siblings were sisters, so believe it or not, they were more so the aggressors than I was. I was always more passive.
How many were adopted?
Only two.
Only two?
Only two.
Okay. Were they adopted from other countries, or were they adopted from here?
I'm pretty sure they're adopted here in America. I don't want to say Michigan. I'm pretty sure it is, but I can't confirm that at the time.
Okay.
And they're older. They're closer to their 40s, mid 30s or early 40s. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. We want to talk more about your experiences in China.
Yeah.
So why don't you just kind of tell us how you first arrived in China? What did you do? How long were you there?
Yeah. So it's really funny. A lot of people normally consider America or the West to outsource work to China.
Mm-hmm.
I recently learned a word yesterday. My Mandarin practice is 中国是世界工厂。
中国是世界工厂。
世界
world's
factory. The world's factory, right? And it's an expression, obviously, to kind of understanding why China is so powerful in certain things that they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while a lot of people, especially a lot of Americans, have the idea that we outsource work, we outsource jobs over to China, someone came to America searching to outsource work to China, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time I was working for a design agency in Santa Monica, California. I was at a tech event in the area. I was doing a presentation discussing design, discussing user experience, discussing the future, the community, just giving feedback. Giving back is what I do. Right. So I was giving back to other, newer designers.
And what year was this?
This was back, I want to say, in 2014.
2014, okay.
2014, so not too long ago.
Okay.
And after the event, I got approached by a man, and he says, "Hey, we want to talk." And so I'm like, "Sure."
Chinese man?
He actually is Cantonese, but at the time, I've never lived in China. I didn't know anything about China. He was just Chinese to me.
Okay.
Right?
Did he speak perfect English, or did
he spoke decent English?
Decent English.
He spoke decent English, enough for me to understand.
Right.
And so he wanted to get together, and I was like, "Sure, fine. Not gonna hurt."
Right.
So we get together, and this story is super funny. You'll really enjoy this.
Okay.
He's like, "Hey, let's go out, have drinks, dinner, and I want you to meet some of my friends."
He just directly after the event invited you to have dinner.
And a follow-up call. Yes.
Okay.
But he's like, "We want to work with you. Let's have a conversation."
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So we go over somewhere into the Alhambra area.
And this was immediately after the event, or
this is within about a week scheduled.
Within a schedule.
About a week scheduled. So I go out to this restaurant. We're eating food I've never eaten before, chicken feet.
Was it a Cantonese restaurant?
It was. I couldn't say
Asian
at the time, but it was Asian cuisine.
Asian cuisine.
And I met a bunch of guys he introduced me to, and they're like, "Drink."
Okay.
We're gonna drink. And so
they were all Asian.
They were all Asian.
Okay.
And about 8 bottles of sake later, we're just talking, having fun, having a blast.
Okay.
Now, I actually ended up having to sleep in my car that night because my wife wasn't going to let me drive home, and I don't think Uber was as popular as it is today.
Right.
Obviously, it was around, but it just wasn't something I thought of. And I didn't want to leave my car all the way out there, drive back to the west side of LA, and do that thing.
You slept in your car?
I slept in my car. I figured, we had a boys' night, whatever, no big deal.
Now, what did it go beyond the restaurant, or did it stay in the restaurant?
Now, it ended at the restaurant, which was like 1 or 2 in the morning, which is fine. That thing that we did, the whole drinking and meeting friends, that continued for an additional 4 to 5 months. Like, it wasn't just one meeting, it was multiple meetings.
Okay, so before we get into what happened over the next 4 to 5 months, what was the main takeaway after the first time? Was it, I want to do business with these people, or I want to drink with these people?
Well, for me, I had no idea what was going on.
You were having a good time?
It was supposed to be an interview, and I was debriefed prior to everything that it was going to be an interview.
Okay.
Right? And regardless of what happened in that 4 to 5 months, the concept of it was, this is an interview. This is an interview process.
This is a long interview process.
This is a long interview process. And so I kept telling my wife, I said, they're interviewing me. They're interviewing me. Even I was losing faith. I was like, what's going on here? I'm just wasting my time with these guys. But they would do little things here and there to keep me interested. Right?
Okay, so did you ever meet in the daytime? In the office?
No.
No. It was always evening and drinking.
It was always out of office, in personalized settings, trying to get to know each other.
Okay.
And
it was always the same group of people, or?
Yes, there's always an additional person, someone new. Meet this person, meet that person. This guy's one of our investors. This guy's one of our partners. This guy runs our product development over in China, in Shenzhen.
But there's a couple guys that were always coordinating with you.
Correct. There's a core.
Okay.
The guy who I introduced with, and the guy who was actually the CEO of the business. At the time, I didn't know all of this.
Now, who was the guy that you met at the event? Was he the CEO?
No, he had nothing to do with the business. He was just a friend of the family that was looking to do business here in America.
Okay, that's pretty common. Okay, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so I started to lose faith. I thought it was the strangest thing, but they came to me and said, "Hey, look, we're going to give you a contract, and we're going to have you on a flight to Shanghai within the next week or so."
And this was after how many months?
About 5.
About 5 months.
Yeah.
How often did you go on your interview dinners with them?
About once a week.
About once a week?
Yeah.
So I just assumed for you, the trade-off was at least it's nice food and they're picking up the tab.
It is a very positive way to look at it, and I'm totally okay with that, for better or worse, right? I got a lot of meals paid for.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's good food too.
it was good food. I was eating food I never ate before. I was drinking more than I had drank in a long time, and just having fun. And for better or worse,
I mean, you're still you're still young now, so back then you were even younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you were married.
Yeah.
You were already married. Did you have kids then?
No kids. So now I probably couldn't pull that off, but
Right.
back then it was a little bit easier, a little bit. Looking back at that experience, I could easily tell that they wanted to know who I was.
Okay.
Right? They wanted to know the real me. They wanted to know if I would lie about certain things. They wanted to know if I would tell the truth about certain things. They wanted to know my knowledge.
Now, did they expect you after you arrived in Shenzhen to do anything unethical?
Unethical.
By Western standards.
No.
You had to think about it, though.
I mean, when I told people about the opportunity that I was taking, they all said I was crazy.
Why?
They're like, what are you doing?
No, why did they think that? I think that's an awesome opportunity.
I felt the same way, but at face value, if I say, hey, some guys came to me and offered me a flight to Shanghai.
No, they offered you after 5 months of getting to know you.
I could say that, but it's just hard to convince some people. Not everyone, some people. There's some people that understood what was happening there, but there's some people that didn't. And the majority of people didn't. And that's actually something that's really important to know right now. The majority of people didn't understand what was going on. And
Actually, the majority of people in your circle.
my social circle, professional network.
Were you employed at the time?
Yeah.
And was this kind of taking you away from your employment, or was
No, it was all weekend stuff.
No. I'm talking about the offer they made you.
Oh, once
Did you
the
have to
offer
quit?
was made, I had to leave my job.
You had to leave your job.
Yeah.
So basically, they were kind of recruiting somebody here and giving them a new kind of join our organization.
Yeah.
It's more exciting in Shenzhen. You can be
Yeah.
involved in more exciting stuff.
Yeah, they were selling me on all the things, and for me, it was just a new opportunity to explore. I immediately got a visa for 10 years in mainland China to do something I'd never done before, and that was.
And they gave you
exciting.
a contract?
Yeah.
Did they pay you in US dollars?
Yeah.
Okay. Do they have an organization here where they can give you health insurance?
So that they created the organization, and I was actually the very first employee for that organization. Now, with that being said, the company was based in China.
In Shenzhen.
In Shenzhen. Well, actually in Shanghai, but the technology offices were in Shenzhen.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, very exciting, crazy opportunity. I took a chance, and it was one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, so before we get into that, I'm curious, during this 5 months of trying to recruit you, it's dinner, it's drinking, when did they start mentioning the possibility of making you an offer?
I mentioned that they would do little things.
They would kind of hint at it?
They would hint at it, and it wasn't direct. It was indirect.
Okay.
They made it clear that I wasn't the only person that they were interviewing. I took an invitation to another interview as an acceptance or representation of success, right?
Okay.
Because if they don't want you around, anybody doesn't want you around, they won't invite you back,
Right.
right? So I think in the end, what kind of won me over, or won that relationship, is I just simply told the truth. In an opportunity where apparently a lot of people didn't tell the truth.
Well, okay. What about during the 5 months? Did you express any interest in going to China? Did you express any loyalty to the company that you were working for, or saying that I don't really like my current job?
I mean,
how did that play out?
So I had a pretty good poker face.
Okay.
Obviously, my job is the number one priority, right? If I work for you or work for a particular company, my client is number one. Now, with that being said, behind the poker face, I was pretty freaking excited. This is pretty cool. It was something I'd never heard of, so I was interested to go down the rabbit hole, asking.
So you were interested to find out what the outcome might be from day one.
Correct. I was like, where does this rabbit hole go to? Right? In the Matrix, Neo has the opportunity to choose the pill. It was me. This was me choosing the blue pill. Right?
Okay. So they give you an offer. You get your visa almost right away.
Yeah.
You submit your resignation to the company that was employing you.
Yeah.
And off you go with your entire family, or?
No, just me. My wife, she wasn't really interested in the time of making that trip, and.
But you were going to be there temporarily or permanently?
It was just temporarily. There was a due date. There's a return date. Excuse me. So we were leaving, I think, at the beginning of March, and they said, for now, you'll come back. I think end of March, early April.
Okay, so it was like a month trip?
So that first trip was a month trip. Yes.
A month trip, okay.
And then what ended up happening as the company grew, I would take trips every quarter. So stay here for a month, come back. Go back for a month, come back. So
okay, so they actually set up an office here. And
yes.
You work in the office here.
So I would work in the office in Pasadena, but not until we actually hired employees, which really wasn't into the second year because most of the initial hiring for employees was in the Shenzhen office. So
now, were you kind of like a general manager for the business here?
Yeah, so for the business here, I was in charge of helping source the other American designers, helping to scale the business over here, but they wanted to build a piece of technology that worked for the Chinese market and as well as the American market. So before we actually got designers here, all of my interactions really took place between 4 p.m. and 3 or 4 a.m.
Right.
Most of the designers, most of the team was over in China.
Okay, and what was the longest continuous duration that you stayed in Shenzhen?
2 months.
2 months. So basically you traveled back and forth a lot.
Yes.
And they just put you in a service department or something like that?
When I was there?
Yeah.
I was working directly with the guys. They had a huge office in one of the technology parks, which is right across the street from, what do you call it? Not WeChat.
WeWork.
Not even WeWork. No. Tencent.
Right across from Tencent.
So it's right across from Tencent's offices, and we had a few floors in that building, and I would work with my guys. Engineering was on an entirely different floor, or different room. I'd be with my design guys if they had questions. I had 2 translators at any time, one for writing, one for speaking, and I just try to rub elbows with the guys.
How about housing? Did they provide housing or
Hotel.
Hotel.
Yeah, I think it was Shangmei Jiudian.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so the majority of your time when you were in China was in Shenzhen?
Majority, yes. Weekends was Shanghai. And I'll explain to you how this works really quickly. The esports club, the organization that I worked for, was based in Shanghai.
Okay.
The technology offices, we were building more consumer-based products, social networks, e-commerce websites, those additional products for the esports club. Those technology offices, the talent was in Shenzhen.
Okay, and you would go to Shanghai for fun on the weekends or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could say that. There's also, the club would be playing tournaments on the weekend as well. So that was our excuse or reason to go up there. But, Shanghai is my favorite city in the world. And it's lively, it's happening, it's moving. And, whenever I could get the opportunity to go up there, I would go. Matter of fact, a few times the CEO wouldn't let me go. He's like, I just don't know what you're going to do up there, so I got to keep you close by.
Okay. All right. So you land in Shenzhen. Can you tell me what happened on day one?
So actually,
did you fly by yourself?
No, we took Cathay Pacific Airways, and I had the CEO and the CFO with me.
Okay, so you traveled together on your first trip. We traveled
together, first trip. So we arrived in Hong Kong, went through checking all that stuff, check bags, whatever, and right away, I have to tell you an experience. They let the guys, the CFO and the CEO, they let them kind of walk through the scanner and things like that. Right away, they stopped me. And they checked my bags. And they were going through my bags. I'm like, what's this? What's this? What's this? And
this was in Hong Kong?
This was in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I'm talking to the guys. I'm like, you have bags too. Why didn't they check your bags? And they said, because we're Chinese, man. And I was like, what does that mean? And again, this is all new to me.
Right.
So what does that mean? And I wasn't offended. I was just like, they're holding me up, but I don't got nothing more than just a toothbrush and toothpaste in my bag.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't have much. So it was like, again, we have random security checks here in America all the time, but I knew right away it was targeted because there was no one else around me who looked like me at the time. There's nothing going on. I was clearly with them. But
did you feel like it was kind of racial profiling?
You could say, yeah. But I guess when you say those words, racial profiling,
it has a negative connotation.
It does have a strong negative connotation with it. I was so elated to be there that it didn't matter. You couldn't do anything to stop me or kind of ruin my mood. And it wasn't a mood ruining thing. It was just right away, boom, hurdle.
Okay. Yeah. Well, racial profiling does have negative connotations here in the U.S.
Absolutely.
But in Asia, it's actually still pretty normal. So it's just completely different. So you crossed in Hong Kong. Did you take the ferry to Shenzhen? Or?
No, we had someone pick us up. I guess there's like this special type of car that you have that has a special license plate that can cross between mainland and Hong Kong. And so we had one of those vehicles pick us up, drive us through the border. There's another security checkpoint that's got all these like cameras there, and drive the car through. And the lines are ridiculous to get through. So people are outside of their cars, kind of smoking, talking on their cell phones. Once we got past the border, we got driven to our hotels and just kind of.
So the people that are accompanying you on this trip, these are the ones that you built relationships with over the 5 months. So
Correct.
You knew them well.
I knew them well enough that they would trust me with certain decisions and things like that.
Right.
They took the time to understand who I was as a person. I think the understanding that I had a skill was pretty clear to them.
Right.
It was a matter of, can we trust this guy to do business with?
Okay. And so when you got into Shenzhen, you checked into the hotel. Did they put you to work right away, like the next day, or was there more entertainment and dinners before you started working?
No, they put me to work right away.
Or you worked right away?
Right away.
Okay.
And I was okay.
So then that was the next day in the office?
Next day in the office, yeah.
Meet the team.
Okay. Say what's up. Let's do the thing. You know, we had been working a little bit prior to us coming back over with our team, so it wasn't a surprise. I was a little bit jet lagged, but it's just right away a cultural difference.
So this was actual. They employed you.
Yeah.
You were an employee. Okay. So all right. So how long had you officially joined them before this trip? It was like right away?
I think it was about a month.
About a month. So you did a lot of conference calls, a lot of exchanging of technical information, product specs before you actually arrived over there. Okay, and so now we'll get into exactly what you're talking about. So what were kind of the biggest cultural adjustments or challenges when you first... Now, did you speak any Mandarin then?
No.
And how good was their English?
Beyond the executives in the company, there was no English speaking.
Almost none?
No.
Okay.
Almost literally none.
Okay, all right. And, but I assume kind of the more technical design language is kind of universal, right?
Yeah, you know, we're all kind of doing the same thing.
Obviously, you just draw it on the whiteboard and they understand.
You can draw it. Again, I had 2 translators that would help out with things. Whenever you had kind of a disagreement or misunderstanding with nomenclature, there were always ways and things you can do to kind of bring that communication together.
Okay, so what were the biggest challenges for you week 1?
Week 1, the biggest challenges were adjusting to something I wasn't accustomed to, and it had nothing to do with the actual work. It was more so that I thought that I worked hard. In fact, I knew that I worked hard.
Okay.
I could look to my right, I could look to my left, I could see what my peers are doing, and I always could see that one-to-one, pound for pound, I was delivering more things, I was doing more things, and the reason why is because I've always known that I'm not a talented guy. And when you know that you're not talented, you need to understand that you probably need to work twice as hard to do what the talented person can do.
Okay.
So that really defined my career up to this point. So here's this American guy who thinks he's better than everyone else. He thinks he's not smarter than everyone else, but he thinks he's going to outwork everybody in the room. And then boom, you are now the laziest person in the company.
Okay.
Officially, like within seconds.
Now, did your work ethic change because you were in a different country?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go.
Absolutely. It's I couldn't even compare who I am today to that person back in 2014.
Okay.
And it hasn't been that long. There's no way. I've seen, it's like...
But so that's more of a personal thing. What about externally? Like in the macro environment, did you have trouble with the food? You had translators, but was it frustrating the way that people communicated? Could you not understand or give instructions? Did leadership, how was communication with leadership as far as expectations? How did that week 1?
Week 1 went by a blur, but there's a lot of things. I could say that, I've eaten rice before, so it's not a big deal, but the feeling of not knowing what you're eating, I got sick right away from the food.
Yeah, but you did a lot of that eating for 5 months when you were...
Yeah, but it's different. It's the mainland and what we eat here in America is just going to be different.
Okay.
Additionally, there was just trying to understand what people were saying. I felt that there was something that wasn't right, and I couldn't really discover that until about a month or 2 in.
Something that wasn't right. What does that mean?
So, as a designer, and at a certain point before we scaled up our team, I was doing a lot of hands-on work, which I'm okay with doing. And I would send a bunch of wireframes for a potential product, or even send the high-fidelity work to our team to kind of scale up and do for like different parts of the product we were building. And the work would come back entirely different than what I had sent out. And for me, I didn't understand what was happening.
And who did you ask?
I asked the CEO, I said, this isn't what we agreed upon. This isn't what we said we were doing. This is almost entirely different. And it happened a lot before I realized what was actually going on. But during that period, I was frustrated. I was like, why am I doing all this work? And at the end of the day, it looks completely different. Again, I'm a designer. I'm visual. I see something a certain way. We do something a certain way.
Now, were you designing for the Chinese market then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's what I didn't know.
Oh, you were designing for the Chinese
I
market?
was designing for the Chinese market. So what would happen is they wanted Western inspiration on how I would approach or solve a particular problem by my design, and then they would
adapt it.
Yeah. And I didn't know that was happening. So I just thought that my peers, my colleagues, the people that I was responsible for were just blatantly ignoring me.
And the CEO, he didn't explain that to you?
He didn't articulate it well enough at the time.
Can you recall what he said? Like, well, the first time you brought it to him?
No, he never really addressed the problem. He would really say, like, the reason why things are done a certain way is because of a certain thing, and I couldn't really repeat what he said, but he never would say, like, oh, they're doing this because I told them to. It wasn't like a particular or direct response. It was really kind of like, we're asking them to do their best, they're providing what they can, and so...
Now, when you went over there, was it more of an understanding that you were there to collaborate with them, or did anybody there report to you?
So my team at the time was essentially there to report to me. At least that was what I was told. The team never reported to me. They would report back to the CEO. Right? And the CEO would actually, in certain meetings, tell them, you guys have to stop coming back to me. You have to go to Jay.
Right.
We hired him for a reason.
Right.
And I realized that they didn't want to report to me. They didn't feel that they needed to.
Do you think any of that was racial? What was your feeling? I mean, how did they treat you as kind of like a friend or as just an individual?
I felt that I wasn't a part of the team.
You felt like an outsider?
I felt like an outsider.
Okay.
And I didn't know.
Well, you could have been Caucasian, you would have felt like an outsider.
I can't speak to it, but maybe. And again, I don't think it's a black or African American driven thing. I just think that I'm not one of the guys.
Okay.
And for me, that was frustrating because I would work as hard as I could. I would do anything I could to win these guys over. But there's always a disagreement, always an argument, always a change of direction.
Can you give me an example of that? What would you do to try to win these guys over?
I would show as much appreciation as I could in person. I would do a lot of one-on-ones, spend time with them, ask them about their day, their personal life.
Did they invite you to socialize outside of the office?
Never.
Never?
Never.
Never.
Not once.
And did you
The company
invite?
did.
Yeah,
The company did.
the company did.
No individual did.
None of the people that you work with did.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you reach out to them to try to do some of that relationship building other than just kind of ask them questions and try to get to know them in the office?
Yeah, I did, but I'll be honest with you, it wasn't until too late. I think that, and again, no one can take as much responsibility as I should in this particular situation. I came over as the American, thinking that he was better than everyone else.
Okay. So you were aware that you had that mentality?
I wasn't aware at the time.
You're aware in retrospect?
In retrospect, I'm aware.
Okay.
I learned a lot. Perhaps there were some opportunities where I was frustrated because I was speaking to a translator, and this is a perfect example. And I have someone else. I have a friend who's from Taiwan, and she's currently dealing with this issue.
Did you have anybody advising you?
No.
Only somebody translating for you?
Yeah. I mean, the CEO would tell me what to do in certain situations when he gave me or had the opportunity or time.
Yeah, but he has a vested interest in your performance, and he has a vested interest in how well you work with others.
Yeah.
But nobody who didn't have a stake in the race was advising you.
Yeah. Yeah, no one was. And so I would talk to the translator and be really upset about something. And I would tell the translator, I said, tell them this. And she would tell them this, but she would kind of switch it to that.
Okay.
And she would translate.
Could you sense what she was translating?
Yeah, I could.
Could you sense that she wasn't saying exactly what you said?
Yeah. Because depending on the response I got.
Could you sense that some of the things that you were trying to articulate didn't translate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't because it didn't translate directly, it was probably because culturally it might not have been either acceptable or of the norm to translate directly what I was saying.
Right.
And that's, now speaking, that's okay. There are different ways of communicating the same message.
Right.
Now that I'm a little bit older, I have a family, I have a child, I learn different ways of communicating with people. Not everything has to be so direct, not everything has to be condescending, not everything has to be tiered, where you are above this person. Whether your title states it or not, you can communicate with people as if they're your friends. You can help people, you can raise people up with your words, not put people down. And I'm not saying that's my type of personality, I'm just saying that it was a difficult experience for more than one reason, but I think the knowledge that I have today would probably have made that situation a lot different.
Yeah, no, it surely would have. So, and how long does this go on, that you travel there, like every quarter? It was
2 years.
for 2 years. So how did the relationship between you and your team change or evolve over the 2 years? I mean, when you finally, towards the end,
Yeah.
was it a lot better? Was it a lot worse?
It was better with certain.
Did you understand each other better? Did you find different ways to get your point across to get what you wanted to accomplish?
With certain people, it was better. I remember one of the memories I have is being in a room with the chief technology officer who was from Shenzhen,
Okay.
and he didn't speak a lick of English, maybe a little bit, but we were in a room having beer, trying to say the same thing, and so we couldn't necessarily say what we wanted, so we would whiteboard it.
Okay.
He could whiteboard in English, I could whiteboard different
Right.
designs, things like that, but we realized we were talking about the same thing.
Right.
And during the time we were having some difficulties in the company, I can't really articulate or identify what those issues were, but they were pretty bad. And even they, like I might have seen these problems, but even they, the team, and we had scaled to well over 130 people at the time, some of the leadership that was in China that couldn't speak English would pull me aside and talk to me about things that they couldn't talk directly to leadership about.
Okay.
And that was great because I felt that I had earned the trust of certain people.
Okay.
That at least, regardless for better or worse, maybe we don't see eye to eye on the same things, we could see that there were common themes that were going on that we could come together for.
Okay. So by the end, so what are some of the things that you would have done differently based on what you know now? Just your own, let's just say your attitude, your mindset, and your approach.
My mindset now is really about the people in my life. And there's an expression that I like to say, if your network is your net worth, your riches will be endless.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what that means is using relationships as a means to an end, but not the actual end itself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I would have probably practiced speaking Mandarin earlier, right? I would have probably tried to have more one-on-ones with people earlier. I would probably try to say more positive things earlier. I might have even shed some light on the cultural differences that we've had.
Now, when you say one-on-ones, you're just talking about meeting with somebody either on your team or in the company, like in a conference room and just chatting.
Even after work,
Even
right?
after work.
Taking the opportunity to enrich myself, to build those relationships per se.
Okay.
And I don't think I could have done the situation any different. I was an American guy coming over to a different country, doing a thing I've never done, which is an experience that not a lot of people have, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would be where I am today in my career if I didn't go through that experience. And it was a positive experience for the most part. I would say 9 days out of 10, it was pretty awesome.
Now, were you taking Mandarin lessons while you were in China over those 2 years?
It was getting into the second year that I started.
Okay.
Into the second year.
Or you hired a tutor?
Yeah, well, actually, I would wake up in the mornings, go for a run, and I, started to build my routine. I would have the Pimsleur in my ear while I was running down the street, which is amazing. You'd see so many people be like, "Who's this guy?
Right.
Who's this African American guy running around the streets of Shenzhen,
Yeah.
sweating, running fast, running hard?" Super funny experience. But I started practicing music in my ear, little bits of communication in the office. One of the terms that I heard every single day is "你听到了吗?" Can you see my screen? Can you see this presentation? Because we do presentations all the time.
That's the video conference?
Like Skype or something like that, yeah. So, or like, 听了, and, talk about 我们有一个开会, 现在开会. And I would actually say those things in the office, like just one-liners, and it would get laughs, and people would enjoy it. They say, "Oh, this guy's actually trying." And towards the end of the experience, I would do those things to do whatever I could to be like, "Hey, like, I'm trying. I want to be like you guys. I want to be with you guys. We are a team. We are a family." I didn't do those things in the first.
Did you have a budget to entertain your team?
I wasn't really responsible or in charge for any of that. If I did, I would have more often. We would do like big company events. We'd all go out drinking, get super drunk, eat a bunch of food. But I was really taken care of more than I could take care of others.
Did you ever play any sports with any of your colleagues?
No.
So basically eating, drinking, singing?
We did some singing. We did some K-pop, KTV, excuse me.
KTV, yeah.
But it wasn't with all the team. It was with the executives.
With executives?
Yeah.
Okay. So KTV with executives is typically with female accompaniment. So you did a lot of that too?
Maybe. Well,
I mean, that's standard. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who knows business in China knows that's pretty standard.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Sure. I'll allude to it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, just for the people listening, it's almost part of the. If you want to develop Guanxi relations with China, you just kind of have to go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You might as well enjoy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, why did the relationship, or why did you leave that company, and when did you leave? You say after 2 years. So, how long have you been no longer working for that company?
I left the company in June 2017.
June, so just about a year ago.
Just about a year ago. Just over a year now.
Okay, and was it a mutual decision to separate, or how did that work?
It was a mutual decision. At face value, remember I said there were some things going on in the company that I couldn't really allude to, and I think that had taken a head. And the reason why I can say that there are things going on, I'm not sure if it affected me, or I'm not sure if I was responsible. I'm a big fan of always putting myself in terms of, I'm responsible for this, or I could have done something better.
Right.
Because you never know, right? So it's better to have that mindset and try to tweak and improve than be like, none of it's my fault, none of it's my responsibility.
Right.
With that being said, I think a lot of it was more financial.
On the company side?
Company side, yeah.
Okay.
Whereas our 10 to 15 employees here in the States, the burn-through rate for those employees was almost 3 times as much as the employees in Asia.
Okay.
Right? We had a lot of people on 6-figure salaries and things like that over here, and they came to me and said, "Hey, we're laying off half your team here in the States," and that happened, and then there was another set of layoffs for people in the States, and then it was really down to me and a few interns. And then they came to me and said, "Hey, we're bringing the whole operation back in China." They did offer me an opportunity to come live over there. They would, cut my American salary, but they said I would save more money. They would have all these negotiations and conversations. But at the time, my wife and I, we were trying to have a child, and this, there's a lot of cuts, and it didn't feel right. And there's a lot of negativity in the situation, and I felt it was time to move on. And they said,
Now, there's a lot of cuts. Is that because the products weren't doing well in the market?
It's a technology product. It was social networking. So anytime you have a social networking product, you're investing millions and millions of dollars into your marketing, into your advertising, into your user growth and acquisition.
Initially. Yeah.
And
So if you don't meet your expectations, then that's when the cuts come.
Essentially, yeah. Even if user growth is the KPI that you're measuring success off of, if you're not hitting those user growth metrics, you got to cut costs, right? And so we were, the gangrene part of the hand that needed to be chopped off, and that started to happen, and even for myself, my salary probably at the time was worth maybe somewhere between 10 and 20 employees in Asia. And so I could easily have been a hand to be chopped off. And at the time, I said, "Listen, guys, this doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for the company. Doesn't look good for me." We had mutual conversations, and they said, "All right, hey, well, this is what we do. Since you're not coming to live over here in Asia full time, we will give you a severance for a certain period of time, and then we'll part ways." And that's exactly what happened. And now I am where I am today.
Okay, so that was June of last year, and then had you already started planning your own business?
No. At the time, I wasn't necessarily planning my own business, but I had a social networking product that I built on my own. Again, I'm a designer. I do a little bit of coding. I had a friend help me out with a lot of components that I couldn't do. And I was doing that on the side, always having fun. I'm a social guy. I love social networking. I love meeting new people. And
you never considered employment again?
At the time, no. I didn't need to, right? I had a really nice severance package. I was living in West LA. I was going over, there's a hotel called Shangri-La Hotel. Maybe some of the viewers know it's got this beautiful kind of look on the Pacific Ocean. Going up there, having drinks, meeting people, socializing, having fun. Me and my wife had to take a trip to Mexico just after. We were enjoying our time. We're trying to have a child. So again, there's no plan or need to work at the time. And then my wife got pregnant, and things changed right away. And so it was a combination of me not necessarily needing employment, but needing an additional stream of revenue coming in, just so I could support the hospital bills and costs and things of that nature. So,
well, especially if you don't have any kind of insurance.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've always had insurance, but with a lot of the Obamacare changes that have come in. So what happens? My wife is from France. She's French. Because I'm married to a French individual, I actually have a lot of benefits of French citizenship, or French citizen. In fact, I will be taking my test. It's oral, written, and an interview for my French citizenship here in January. And to pay for insurance, you simply pay the year up front. You pay $2,000, $3,000, and you're covered. You can expense anything up to, I think, your Equinox gym membership, which is something crazy. Right? But we didn't need a lot of things, but with the Obamacare changes, we had to have an insurance provider that was here. So we made those changes. I started taking up contract work, taking on more clients, taking on side projects, and we'll kind of get back to how that kind of led to where we are today. But we kind of just started one project at a time and me getting back into the workforce.
Yeah, let's talk about. You also mentioned in your pre-interview form that you think Americans are one of the most challenging cultures to work with.
Yeah.
And can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, and
you're saying they're more difficult than Chinese?
A lot of people might not like this, but in my experience, and my experience is my own, the people that I've worked with in China, they just work. There's nothing in between on the top. There's nothing in between on the bottom. They show up. They do their work. They'll do extra work if they're asked to stay overtime, which was every day. They'll do the overtime every day. They'll work nights. They'll work weekends. And while I do not think that is healthy, they just do it. It is a working culture. So if you're talking about do Asians or do Chinese workers work more or easier to work with, if all you do is work, then they've already essentially won. I'm not saying that's all people do in China, but my colleagues, all they did was show up. They never complained. They'd be sick as a dog. They'd do whatever they need to do. This is technology we're talking about. This is like the Silicon Valley of Asia. And they're working like they're working in a factory, working long hours, pushing pixels, designing things, engineering, coding, output.
Isn't that the kind of the culture at Google and stuff like that in Silicon Valley? Oh yeah, I'm not in that space, but I hear a lot of crazy working hours there too.
What we like to call it is, a lean, agile, rapid prototyping, getting things done. But I would say pound for pound, there's a lot more throughput, a lot more work and productivity happening in Asia than anywhere in the world, right? Google has ping pong tables. Google has places for you to nap. Google has cafeteria. Google has all these things.
Chinese people just nap on their desks.
They nap on their desk.
Yeah.
They're drooling on their desk. And in fact, they might still be clicking while they're napping on their desk, which is hilarious. And I've seen it. They sleep in the office. But like here in America, we have, really a full work week is 40 hours, right? And that's 8 hours per day. How many of those hours are you spending at lunch? How many of those hours are you spending in meetings? How many hours are you spending in meetings to schedule more meetings?
Yeah.
How many hours are people playing video games, watching YouTube videos, cat videos, consuming content on the internet, social media? Now, again, we're not speaking for everyone here, but there are individuals that really, if you think about it, are only putting about 3 to 4 hours of solid work in any given day, if you average it out.
Right.
Whereas in Asia, none of that's there. There are people that had dedicated roles to play video games or had dedicated roles to watch quote-unquote cat videos or whatever it is that they were doing. They weren't getting paid more than minimum wage to do that, but if you're looking at the team and the people that we're working with, heads down, sweating, getting the job done. Oh, by the way, it's very humid in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
I think you know that.
Yes.
So, literally sweating, getting stuff done. And it was, to me, no matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did, even if I stayed at the office from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., I was the lazy one. And I would agree with that.
They had a cafeteria, everybody ate?
No.
And
No.
everybody went out to lunch?
They had to go look for their own lunch.
So they ordered?
Or they would order in.
Yeah,
There's a lot of ordering in.
Yeah.
We had delivery guys coming every 7 for something.
Yeah.
And they would eat at their desk and they would keep working.
Okay.
And again, I don't think that's healthy.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that was the culture that I experienced. Even in construction, I saw people working all night. You'd see the same people working in the same shift.
Right.
They would leave that shift, they'd be eating their food, walking to a bus, and then the next person ready to take that shift was right there.
So what's your biggest takeaway about this experience in China and working with, not just working with your team and the quote-unquote workers, but working with the executives, the leadership? I mean, how's that mentality kind of different than what you would expect here?
Well, in terms of mentality, I like that the value of friendship is important at the highest level.
Right.
Relationships at the highest level, still very important.
Okay.
I have a lot of respect for that. I think that because we work in industries and a climate that doesn't breed for a lot of different relationships, sometimes you take a meeting, if nothing comes of the meeting, you skip out on the meeting where you won't meet again. If someone's not ready to make a deal, you won't follow up with that individual. And I believe that's inherently different in Asia, where it's like they would, again, you can do some pretty high-powered deals in Asia, right? As long as you have the right relationships. So that's in terms of mentality, one thing that I love over there. The second thing, and I think this is the most important thing without alluding to something particularly or specifically, is that the world's liquidity will be coming from Asia, right? There's a lot of opportunity in Asia. Asia's building bridges. They're not building walls. We're building walls. They're building bridges. They're trying to connect to the world. Now, for whatever you want to say about the government and the things that they do, that's none of my business, right? And I try to stay out of that. But they're expanding. They're open to relationships. They're open to doing business in other parts of the world. The government has opened its doors.
Is that on a macro level that you're talking about?
Oh,
or
yeah.
at the micro level? What about at the individual level?
Well, that's at the grandest scale. At the individual level, just go. The energy is different. The vibe is different. People don't bother you. I'm an African American man, and sure, like when I went to Asia, I got a bunch of looks. People would look at me. It would make me kind of uncomfortable depending on the situation. But no one ever bothered me. No one ever went out of their way to harass me, like you see here in America. Like, sure, maybe there's racial biases. Perhaps that prevents you from doing the thing that you want to do or accomplishing the goal that you aimed or set yourself to accomplish. But there's always a way to break through. I believe in that. I truly believe if one door closes, another door will open, right? And here in America, I have a higher chance of getting shot or killed, even in West LA.
Well, there's not a gun culture in China.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, even often police officers don't have guns.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact,
In fact, when terrorists commit terrorist acts, they use knives. They don't use guns.
yeah, exactly.
So it's a completely different world.
Yeah, it's different. And again, there are positives and negatives about every place in the world.
Right.
I love America. I still think America, for better or worse, has a lot of things that you can't do in other places, which would allude to some people saying America is the greatest country in the world. But you need to kind of take a step back, look at the landscape that we're in today. Things are changing, and they're changing fast.
Yeah.
And if we don't do something about it, we're not going to necessarily be left behind, because you can do things here that you can't do other places. Like, you can own property for your life, you can pass it down to your children, you can pass down. There's different investment opportunities. We have tons of creativity in terms of software. The pricing for things. We are still winners here in America, but at the same time, you have other countries that are there. They're there.
How is you're a designer, so when you went to China, you were leading design projects. What do you think about the creativity of Chinese people?
I had many conversations about this with native Chinese speakers, and they told me in the past, China has been known to see something that's been great, see something that's been very successful, and not just copy it, but they'll take what works and they'll replicate it. Right? I wouldn't necessarily say it's just copycatting. But what I was told directly.
No, what did you observe, like, with your team?
What did I observe?
Yeah, not what you learned, but what did you observe?
Oh, well, there was almost no creativity.
Oh, okay.
There was really just efficiency.
Right.
And that's one.
But part of the key success factors is actually the creative side and not the efficiency side, right? Because you're bringing products to market that consumers have to be attracted to.
It was a product that consumers would be attracted to, but it wasn't anything new.
No, I'm just saying. I wanted to dig down in that statement that you made.
Yeah.
They're not creative. They're efficient. That
Well,
granular level. That's what we care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I wouldn't say people aren't creative in the sense of they can't produce or create things that are artistic, maybe things that we haven't seen before, but that wasn't actually their responsibility, believe it or not. Like, they weren't tasked to be creative. Does that make sense?
They were more tasked to, at least what you said, you were doing the creating, and then they would take it and they would just kind of mold it into something that was more appropriate.
In thesis, that was one of the only reasons I was hired. And that's cool.
You were hired for your creativity.
I was hired for my creativity. Tell me how many
more
people...
than your skills.
Yeah, more than my skills. Tell me how many people in the world can do that.
Yeah.
Or have had that opportunity. It's a small amount.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm the most creative person in the world. I was just the right guy, right place, right time.
Yeah.
And I'm also a good person. And I think that was what sold the deal. But again, a lot of their responsibility was, hey, take whatever creative concepts that I can come up with and let's build upon that. And they had the people, they had the team, they had the resources and the muscle to build upon those things.
Now you're still learning Mandarin Chinese.
每天都
每天都
every day.
Yeah. So what is the future for Jay as far as China? You planning to go back? You planning to sell there? You planning to form partnerships there? I mean, why continue to learn Mandarin?
Well, there's a few reasons. The first reason is relationships. It doesn't matter where someone lives. You should be able to have a relationship, or at least have the opportunity to build a relationship with anyone. And by speaking someone's native tongue, understanding their culture, understanding who they are, will allow or open more doors or more opportunities for more relationships.
Yeah, but that implies that you want more relationships with Chinese people or in China.
Correct. That's the first thing. The second thing is, let's be honest, every day we're striving to be better. We're striving to do more business. We're striving to see what opportunities lie out there in the world. I'm a very curious person.
Okay.
And so, to me, Asia, there's a lot of opportunity in Asia. And I think anyone, or at least any Westerner that lives in Asia, will tell you the exact same thing. I think any Asian-born individual will probably also agree with that statement, as well as see it on the opposite side over here. But business, in thesis, I think that it's a great business opportunity. I think Mandarin's one of the languages of the business, one of the biggest business languages in the world. Excuse me.
Are you doing any business with China now with your current business?
No.
And are there plans to partner or to do something?
Yes. I'm in communication with certain people about doing certain things. My business, 24-Hour Designs, is focused on rapid prototyping.
Right.
And the important thing to know about rapid prototyping is that your goal is to help an individual get a rapid proof of concept. Now, a rapid proof of concept is not exactly the same thing as a fully fleshed out project, fully fleshed out design,
Right.
the end product. Not even your MVP.
Now, so the business that you're doing now, 24-Hour Design, do you do the prototype and the final? Or you just do the prototype?
We focus on prototyping. We market that we prototype. We market that we help entrepreneurs get their ideas out of their head. Now, a lot of business is done on relationships. It's based on trust.
Right.
So if someone does business with us and they know that we can or are more than capable of accomplishing those goals of helping get their end product out there, they come back to us. Matter of fact, it's almost 8 times out of 10 people say, "Hey Jay, what's next?" And we're glad to help them. Again, it's not something that we market, but with that in mind, we think Asia would be a huge factor in helping us scale our business.
As far as more resources or more customers?
Resources.
Resources.
I'm not discounting customers, but resources, and that is because we're about...
So you want to scale your business by leveraging resources out there?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I've worked with some of the designers over there.
Right.
I see the work that they're capable of doing, and they're more than capable of doing the same things that we do, right? In fact, they could be better than a lot of us in certain regards. If we say, "Hey, we need you to produce somewhere between 10 to 15 designs, this is what's happening within the screens, here are the wireframes or the skeletal structure of the work, please kind of turn it to high fidelity, please make it better," right? They can do that.
They're great at that.
They're great at that, and I've seen it thousands of times.
Right.
So why not is the question. What's holding you back? Obviously, a 500 USD for someone that lives in West LA or Orange County for that might not be considered a crazy ton of money.
Right.
But 500 USD for 2 or 3 days of work, maybe 5 to 6 days of work in Asia, and you scale it up to 2,000 USD, 3,000 USD, 4,000 or 5,000 USD a month, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For someone who's living, maybe somewhere in a province, but they have the skills to do the exact same things that we are capable of doing here. Why not?
Yeah. Do you have a timeline in mind?
Yesterday?
Well, then let me ask you this. So obviously you continue to improve your Mandarin by taking Mandarin lessons or classes. What else are you going to need to improve about yourself and your awareness in order to effectively manage a team remotely? I mean, how are you going to develop that trust? How are you going to maintain quality? What do you think are the biggest challenges for you as a leader to be able to pull it off, so to speak?
To hear what's never been said.
Okay, so elaborate more on that.
In my mind, what that means is it's kind of like a marriage, a relationship. There are a lot of things that are said through body language, that are kind of said through situational awareness, the ability to essentially read between the lines. And when you're dealing with an entirely different culture, those things are not stamped or written on paper. And at the end of the day, we're all humans here. We're all people.
Right.
No one has ascended the form or the being of man.
Right.
At least not today. No one's had merged with a cyborg completely.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge.
Right.
None of that's happened. So you as a person, you have emotions, you have feelings, you have goals, you have needs, you have wants,
Right.
aspirations. That doesn't change just because someone is in a different country.
Right.
It doesn't change because you're in France. It doesn't change because you're in Germany.
Right.
Our goals may not be the same. Our wants and needs may not be the same. But the ability to understand that everyone has their own personality, their own soul, their own needs. If you can build upon that, perhaps build that connection between French-speaking individuals, Russian-speaking individuals, Mandarin, Taiwanese, Cantonese-speaking individuals, you can build relationships.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. You can't do business if the other person on the side of the phone doesn't value what you're offering.
Right.
And it's usually a human.
Right.
It's usually a person, for better or worse. You're not talking to a dog. You're
Right.
talking to a human to produce something for that dog. Right? And I would go as far as saying, unfortunately, that some people treat other people like dogs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
granted, my dog, she sleeps on the couch, she eats steak sometimes, so my dog gets treated pretty well.
Yeah.
But the concept of that the word I just said, the meaning is that they don't get the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. No, absolutely, I agree.
You don't have to be emotionally invested in someone else's hygiene or someone else's cultural nuances to be a good friend. You don't have to be a friend to everyone. Probably impossible to be a friend to everyone,
Right.
but just understand we're all people.
Yeah.
And that's the end goal.
Yeah. Wow, that's very well said. I just want to thank you. I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for having this conversation. It's so
Thank
interesting
you.
to hear about your experiences in China.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right path. I think you've identified where the resources and the opportunities are, and I think you've carved out a really nice niche for yourself. And we look forward to seeing how this grows over the next, coming years and months and decades ahead.
Thank you for having me. It's not very often that I get the opportunity to speak on goals and aspirations and admirations, for that matter. And I think your podcast, I think your show, I think your initiative and mission can help a lot of people.
Thank you.
There are a lot of executives out there. There are a lot of non-executives out there. A lot of people out there that should be tuning in and listening to these things. There's a lot of Americans, there's a lot of French, a lot of Russians that have experiences in Asia.
Yeah.
And without you kind of shedding the light on those experiences, it's hard to kind of tell how you can apply that to yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Great job.